Welcome to the 700 Club, and thanks for joining us. Well, it was the deadliest wave of terror to hit Israel in years. 3 attacks in 8 days have left 11 people dead.
In Gaza and Lebanon, Hamas and Hezbollah celebrated the murders of Israeli citizens. In a speech to the nation, Prime Minister Naftali Bennett declared Israel will triumph over terror. Chris Mitchell has the latest.
On Tuesday night, a Palestinian gunman on a motorcycle opened fire in the crowded central city of Bnei Brak, killing 5 Israelis, including an Arab policeman. Israeli police said they managed to shoot the terrorists and prevent more deaths. It was the second mass shooting in days. ISIS claimed responsibility for an attack in the city of Hadera, where 2 Palestinian Arabs killed 2 and wounded 4. Earlier, an ISIS supporter killed 4 in a stabbing spree in the southern city of Beersheba that left 4 dead. In the past week, thousands of Israelis gathered in funerals around the country. Hundreds mourned a 19-year-old border policewoman killed in one attack, and Israel's education minister lamented the victims of another.
4 human beings who went out on their daily routine were brutally murdered in a murder campaign of a bloodthirsty murderer, only for the reason of them being Jewish.
To address the wave of violence, Israeli Prime Minister Naftali Bennett called an emergency meeting of top security officials, and in a nationwide speech, he told Israelis that Israel would prevail over terror.
We face a challenging period. We have experience in dealing with terrorism from the very beginning of Zionism. They did not break us then, and they will not break us now.
Hamas praised the shootings in Bnei Brak as a heroic operation. And on Twitter, some in Gaza passed out candy to celebrate the killings. Hezbollah supporters in Lebanon danced in the streets and waved flags to celebrate the latest attack. The terror attacks come ahead of the Muslim month of Ramadan, where there is often a rise in terrorism.
Millions of Muslims actually enjoy the holiday peacefully. But here in Israel, unfortunately, we have radical forces who take advantage of this important religious holiday to incite against Jews and to promote violence.
A new Palestinian study revealed sobering findings about the future of Israeli-Palestinian relations. Nearly half of Palestinians polled said the most effective way to build an independent state was, quote, armed struggle. Only 25% chose negotiations. Chris Mitchell, CBN News, Jerusalem.
Well, we've been saying on this program for decades, not just years, but decades, that you can't have peace with a radicalized group that wants to kill you. And here we're seeing proof yet again that you can't have peace with people that want to murder Jews. That's the end game here. When they say it's armed struggle is the only way, they're saying something that they've said for over 70 years, that they want to drive Israel into the sea. They want to exterminate all the Jews in Israel. How can you ever get to a peaceful 2-state solution when you have that on the other side? They have no intention of building a state. They have no intention of building their own society, benefiting their own children and grandchildren. They're dedicated to wiping out the Jews. Now, let me remind you of another celebration these same people had, and it was 9/11. Now, it's 21 years. But they celebrated in the streets. They danced in the streets when the Twin Towers came down. Let us never forget that. And so we cannot possibly say, well, let's put them more money into that, or let's try to open an embassy to that. It just makes no sense to me that people in power in our State Department somehow think that they can come to a peace agreement with them, somehow think that they can come to a 2-state solution with them, somehow think that it's really good idea to send taxpayer dollars to them so that they can in turn fund terror and fund martyr payments and all the other things that are well publicized and well known. This needs to shut down. We need to stop enabling them to do more terror acts. In other news, the FDA authorized a second COVID booster for people over 50 years old. CBN medical reporter Lori Johnson joins us now for more. So, Lori, Why did they draw the line at 50 and over? And does this mean that everyone that age should get the extra booster shot?
Well, Gordon, we know that age is the #1 risk factor for severe disease or death. And originally they were going to authorize this second booster just for people over the age of 65. But the second leading risk factor is obesity. And 1/3 of people between the ages of 50 and 65 are obese and also suffer from other risk factors. So that's why they lowered it down to 50. But the big takeaway from this action is that the FDA authorized a second booster, but stopped short of actually recommending it. So what that means is that people should decide for themselves, preferably in consultation with their doctor, if a second booster is right for them. Federal officials say that, based on modeling, if we have another surge, a second booster could save thousands of lives and prevent tens of thousands of hospitalizations. We know, Gordon, that during the Omicron surge, people who were boosted were 21 times less likely to die than people who were unvaccinated. And so we know that the boosters tend to wane, their protection starts to wear off after about 3 months. So this second booster is not only for people over 50, but also if it's been at least 4 months since your original booster.
Well, the health experts are also suggesting that people who took initially the J&J vaccine now get a Moderna or Pfizer booster. Why is that?
Well, unfortunately, the studies have shown that the J&J vaccine just really doesn't perform nearly as well as the mRNA vaccines. It's important to note that this second booster authorization is only for Pfizer and Moderna, the mRNA vaccines. And new data shows that people who got the J&J vaccine, just the one shot, are really only 31% protected against hospitalization. 2 J&Js, a little bit better, 67%. But if you combined a J&J shot and a booster with an mRNA booster, that jumps up to about 78 to 80%. So people who are under the age of 50, if you got a J&J, you are also eligible for an mRNA booster.
Well, new vaccines are coming that supposedly target all the new variants. I think we're going to run out of the Greek alphabet pretty soon. Are we in a future where we're going to have to get booster shots every 6 months, every year to combat the new variant?
Well, the FDA is actually meeting next week to decide what their booster strategy is going to be. And most experts say that more than likely this fall they will recommend that we receive a COVID shot. Now, in the meantime, scientists are working on a new and improved COVID vaccine. Boy, we really need it. One that better protects us and also lasts longer. And so they're working on that. They're testing these new vaccines, and we should see the results of those in May, beginning in May. So fingers crossed on that one, Gordon.
Okay. Well, Lori, thanks for keeping us updated. Well, let's turn to Europe, where there's finally some good news for religious freedom. Ephraim Graham has more on that story from the CBN newsroom. Ephraim?
Gordon, a Finland court dismissed all charges of hate speech against a Christian member of parliament and a pastor. Those charges were filed after they shared what the Bible says about homosexuality. Dale Hurd has the story.
On trial were Finnish lawmaker and former Interior Minister Päivi Räsänen and Bishop Johanna Pohjola of the Evangelical Lutheran Mission. Also on trial was the Bible itself and whether quoting the Bible is a hate crime. Finland's own constitution instructs the state church to proclaim the truths of the Bible. But when Päivi Räsänen challenged the church to do just that, she was charged with a crime. Prosecutors accused Räsänen of committing hate speech on 3 occasions. In a pamphlet about biblical marriage published almost 20 years ago, in a broadcast interview, and in a 2019 tweet in which she questioned why the state Lutheran Church was officially supporting Finland's Gay Pride Week.
In my tweet, I directly cited Romans 1st chapter and verses 24 to 27 and posted a picture.
A passage which condemns homosexuality. It's biblical teaching that the Finnish constitution says it supports. The Lutheran pastor who published the pamphlet Päivi wrote on Christian marriage was also found not guilty. Rosanen says she does not regret the ordeal she's had to go through, saying she's received letters from homosexuals who accepted Christ after reading about her story. Her trial has also helped awaken many Christians in Finland who rallied to her defense.
I have a very, very strong feeling that this has been my calling. In some way, this has been a hard time, but in some way, I have felt that this has been a privilege.
Dale Hurd, CBN News.
We turn now to the latest in the war in Ukraine. Russia says it will reduce combat operations around Kyiv and the northern city of Chernihiv. This follows a round of peace talks in Turkey. However, more explosions occurred just outside of the capital overnight. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky is asking his citizens to stay on high alert, saying you can trust only concrete results. The Pentagon confirms Russian troops are pulling away from Kyiv, but suspect they're moving into position for more attacks in the east.
Our assessment is that their intention is to reposition forces and bolster their efforts elsewhere.
The peace talks are expected to resume. Ukraine has offered to remain a neutral state, meaning it won't join NATO, in exchange for security guarantees. Meanwhile, more than 4 million Ukrainians have left the country. When the war came to her city, one Ukrainian mom made the desperate decision to take her children and flee. When she crossed into Poland, her family received a warm welcome and comfort from Operation Blessing.
When the war started, at first it was just around us in Kharkiv and in big cities. We just heard something from afar. I didn't see the need to leave my homeland. Then, an artillery shell hit our street.
For Ksenia and her kids, the danger continued to increase.
2 power poles fell and our electricity went out. For 3 days, we didn't have lights or communication. Houses on neighboring streets began to burn, and an artillery shell hit the house next to ours. The war came to our city.
As Ksenia watched the war unfold, her main concern was keeping her children safe.
It's scary because I'm going into the unknown. And when you have small kids, it's very hard. All I wanted was to leave because of the explosions and bombs. The noise was terrifying.
Ksenia made the difficult trek to the Polish border, where she was met by a team from Operation Blessing. We partnered with the local church to provide Ksenia and her children with a warm and quiet space to rest on their journey, safe from the violence in their home country.
Right after we crossed the border, without any doubt, we knew there would be someone there to help us. But we did not know that the whole world is praying for Ukraine. So many people care about us, and we are also praying.
Thanks to our donors, Operation Blessing teams are on the ground in Poland, helping refugee families like Ksenia's on their journey.
I'm very grateful for such support and care. It is so needed, and we love you for it.
We love you, and the world is indeed praying for Ukraine. Gordon?
Yes, and we're also helping very tangibly, and you can be a part of that. You can be a part of the relief effort on the border of Poland. We're also reaching out to other centers. If we can get the Orphans Promise map, you can see all the places where Orphans Promise has been working, and these are established centers. These aren't startups right now. We need to get them the supplies that they need. You can see on the border of Poland, there's our main warehouse. We're actually shipping supplies from that warehouse back into Ukraine, as well as helping the flood of refugees that are coming across the Polish border. We're looking to open new efforts in Romania, Moldova, Hungary, Croatia, and it's all made possible because people like you care enough to give. So if you'd like to be a part of it, all you have to do is call us, 1-800-700-7000. Say, I want to give to the Operation Blessing Disaster Relief Fund. You can write to us at CBN Center, Virginia Beach, Virginia, 23463. You can text OB Crisis to 71777, or you can just go to our website, cbn.com. There's a place where you can designate your gift to the Operation Blessing Disaster Relief Fund. Do it now. Be part of helping those in such desperate need. 1-800-700-7000.